Chapter 7. The Revolt of 1857. A powerful and popular revolt broke out in northern and central India in 1857. It began with the mutiny of sepoys who were the Indian soldiers of the company's army. But soon it became widespread and involved the masses. Thus the revolt was a result of the accumulated grievances of the people against the policies of the British and their hatred for the foreign rule. Economic causes. The most important cause of the discontent was the economic exploitation of the country by the British. The peasants, artisans, and craftsmen suffered poor economic conditions under the British. The peasants, burdened by heavy land revenue, lost their lands to landlords and moneylenders. Similarly, many zamindars lost their zamindari rights because they could not fulfill the high land revenue demand of the British. Political causes. The British policy of annexation created deep insecurity in the minds of the Indian rulers. The policies like subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse made the Indians lose faith in the British. Lord Dalhousie's policy of doctrine of lapse was resented by the rulers because it curbed their rights of adoption. Annexation of Jhansi, Satara, and Nagpur under the doctrine created great restlessness and distrust. Thousands of people working in the administration and the army were thrown out of jobs. The British refused to grant Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Baji Rao II, the last Peshwa, the pension that they were paying to his father. Similarly, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi wanted her adopted son to succeed the throne, but the British annexed Jhansi. The Indian rulers now turned against the British. Social and religious causes. The Christian missionaries tried to convert the people to Christianity. Some of the social legislation passed by the British, like Widow Remarriage Act, made many conservative Indians very uncomfortable. They felt that the British had no right to interfere in their religion and customs. Religious sentiments were also hurt by the British policy of taxing lands belonging to temples and mosques. Military causes. The revolt of 1857 was started by the company's sepoys. They too had a number of grievances. Often the British officers treated the sepoys rudely. The sepoys were paid much less than the British soldiers and were also given inferior food and accommodation. Moreover, there was no scope of promotion. No Indian could move higher than a subedar drawing 60 to 70 rupees a month. They refused to serve overseas. Immediate factor. In 1856, the British introduced the Enfield rifle in the army. The soldiers had to bite off the greased cartridge before loading it in a gun. At the same time, a rumor spread that the grease used in the cartridge was made from the fat of cow and lard of the pig. This hurt the religious sentiments of both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. The time to rebel had come, as this was beyond their patience and submission. The revolt begins. The next uproar came from Meerut. On 24th April 1857, the Indian sepoys of the Meerut cantonment refused to accept the greased cartridges. On 9th May, 85 of them were dismissed and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. The powerless Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah was declared as the Emperor of India and the official leader of the revolt.
3. In Delhi, the aged Emperor Bahadur Shah was a symbolic leader, but the real command was with a court of soldiers headed by General Buck Khan at Bareilly.
The revolt in Lucknow was led by Hazrat Mahal, the Begum of Awadh, who had proclaimed her young son Birjas Qadir as the Nawab of Lucknow. The revolt was led by Nana Sahib, the adopted son of the last Peshwa. One of the greatest leaders of the revolt was Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. Kuar Singh, a zamindar of Jagdishpur near Ara, was the chief organizer of the revolt in Bihar. The first Indian martyr of the revolt of 1857 at Barakpur in Bengal was Mangal Pandey. He was a young soldier who was hanged on 29th March 1857 for revolting single-handed and attacking his superiors.
One. End of the revolt. The British decided to suppress this powerful revolt with great severity. Delhi was recaptured in September 1857. Bahadur Shah was sentenced to life imprisonment. He and his wife were sent to prison in Rangoon, Burma. Rani Lakshmibai was defeated and killed in June 1858. Tatya Tope escaped to the jungles of central India and continued to fight the guerrilla war until captured and killed. 2. Causes for the failure of the revolt. The rebels were very brave, but they did not have modern weapons, while the British had enormous resources at their command. Moreover, the rebel groups did not have a common plan of action or centralized leadership. The rebels were poorly organized. The uprisings in different parts of the country were not coordinated. Moreover, the rebels had no future program, no plan about the future political system or economy if the British were overthrown. 3. Aftermaths of the revolt. The British Parliament passed an act in 1858 and the power was shifted from the East India Company to the British Crown. Now, the British government accepted direct responsibility for ruling India. The British promised the Indian rulers that their kingdoms will not be annexed in future. The Indian rulers could pass on their kingdoms even to their adopted heirs. The British also decided that they would not interfere in the religious and social practices of the people of India. Soldiers of Awadh, Bihar and central India who had kept part in the revolt of 1857 were no longer taken in the army. 6. Gurkhas and Pathans who helped in the suppression of the revolt were recruited in the army in large numbers.